Yes, he was very gentle. He was a real gentleman. And, like, he was not your average tech. You could tell, like, this is one of their high-end techs. He's out there, troubleshooting.
Mm-hmm.
But he gets the big
jobs.
Yeah.
All right, let's roll.
And he
Today,
all day worked
I'm
his way
here
back to my house.
to give you the assurance that I have not forgotten you.
If we want to see the new evangelization become more than just jargon, if we want to see it grow legs and gain traction and change the world, we have got to take seriously our responsibilities as husbands and fathers, and especially as sons of God.
I want to propose to you then that something that our world is desperately in need of in the midst of this crisis is Catholic Christian masculinity.
If you want to be a good father, then bring your children to confession with you.
I can't get there unless I become a man of ascesis, a man of asceticism, a man of training.
A man not doing penance, a man not disciplined, is not a man.
You guys have upped your game.
You know what, guys? I gotta say, I love the concept of Man Show.
Warning: the Catholic Man Show is about to begin.
Welcome to the Catholic Man Show. We're on the Lord's team, the winning side. So raise your glass. Adam Minahan here, sitting with the David Dials, Don David.
I liked peeling off the like when you first get a bottle of whiskey and it's got this
That
little
top.
like this tab that you peel, and it because it's just so perforated.
Mm-hmm.
It just is a nice, like a satisfying
It feels right.
feeling to peel it off.
Mm-hmm. I do too.
I was really enjoying it that time.
You're enjoying it?
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I'm really excited about this bottle of whiskey because it is very well known to be for sherried whiskey. If you like sherried whiskey.
And in my opinion, the funniest name of all the scotches.
Glenfarclas?
Mm-hmm.
Glenfarclas 12 is what we're drinking.
Every time you say it, it sounds to me like you're saying fartless.
Oh, okay.
It's the Glenfarclas.
Okay. Quality stuff here.
I mean, like,
Man Show.
come on. Everybody's thinking it. You say Glenfarclas. It sounds like Glenfarclas.
Okay. All right. Well,
I wonder if the Scottish people know that.
I am very excited about it, though, because I like sherried whiskey. Like, I like the... It's typically sweet.
I do like sweetness.
And it's a good change up from the heavy peated, smoky Scotch.
You know what my favorite flavor in the world is?
No, I do not.
Sugar.
Is that a flavor?
Yes.
I don't
it's
think
a flavor that has
it's
many.
a flavor.
It's like a virtue. It has many
I don't feel like that it's a flavor
virtues.
at all.
There are many sub virtues of sugar, and I like all of them.
We're going to talk about a sub virtue today.
Yes, I know.
Friendliness.
And
flattery.
And flatulence.
Oh man. I kind of wish that our episode would have gone last night instead of tonight.
Well, it didn't.
Yeah. So we just sat here with Juan and Jim sitting here drinking a bottle of scotch.
Yeah.
Solving the world's problems.
And even now, we're still not live streaming.
No, because our internet.
Because Cox can't get it together.
Our internet is down. Hey, let's cheers. We're on the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass.
Cheers to Jesus.
Cheers. So it says that it's a Speyside, but everybody on the interwebs really calls it a Highland. So I mean, you do it. You do you. If you wanted to call it a Speyside, fine. We've talked about this before. How Speysides and Highlands, they're very like.
What's the difference?
They're very very similar.
Right.
It's very hard to distinguish between the two. So it says it's a natural color with fresh, tempting nose that oozes sweetness, full-bodied and delightfully sherried, long and flavorsome with a lingering spice.
The vent is blowing on me right here, and when I went to smell it, the wind is like hitting me right in the face. Just totally, I'm like trying to get out of the wind so I can smell it.
It definitely smells like a sherried whiskey.
Yeah. Not a whole lot of aroma. Nothing that, like some of them. Some are very aromatic that really punch you in the face.
I get honey, wheat, a little raisin on the nose.
I smell AC. Air conditioning.
America. It is really, yeah. It is a very.
That is nice.
So there's a lot of guys that always ask us. They say, "Hey, what's a good whiskey to start out with?" A good rule of thumb for a whiskey that, like, if you're just trying Scotch for the first time, or you want to get a bottle that, with a couple of buddies that you don't want it to be too aggressive. You have a couple of guys coming in that like they've never tried whiskey before.
Right.
Always I always give kind of the same answer, which is go with a Highland Scotch.
Mm-hmm.
If you really don't want to be adventurous, go with a sherried sherried Oloroso cask, because it's going to be sweeter,
easy to drink.
It's going to be easier to drink. It's going to be more of almost like a bourbon, because the Oloroso's sherry cask is sweeter, like a bourbon. Bourbons are typically the sweet whiskeys.
Yeah.
So it's not as hard of a transition from a bourbon to a Scotch. This Glenfarclas would be a great one to have.
And don't be afraid to water it down.
Yeah, that's
when
right.
You're starting off.
That's right. When we talked to Mark from Whiskey Cask.
Mm-hmm.
That was a few years ago now, probably.
Yeah. What did he say? 2 parts water, 1 part Scotch.
When he said like when you're first starting out.
If you're first starting out, yeah, don't be afraid to do that. Don't pour yourself a big glass.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe, and don't just jump straight there. Maybe go 1 to 1. See how you do.
Yeah.
Also, here's something that I realized at some point.
Okay.
Okay, so when I started drinking beer and whiskey, before that I, was a pop drinker, high school, college, like let me throw down some Dr. Pepper.
Mm-hmm.
And you drink Dr. Pepper much different, or pop much differently than you would an alcoholic beverage. So with Dr. Pepper, something real sweet, you're not afraid to take big old gulps.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get it in me.
Mm-hmm.
So then with whiskey, I catch, like I've told my wife this before, Lady Pamela, take really small sips, and you just have to remember to do that. Because if you take a big sip, even now, if I take a big gulp of whiskey,
mm-hmm.
It's like, ugh. That one was hard, mm-hmm. That one kind of hurt a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But if you got to take a nice small sip.
Yes, because and that way you can really take the flavor in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. How's baby Davy doing?
He's doing great.
Yes?
He's 3 weeks old. He's 3 weeks old as of yesterday, and he's already changed a lot. He's starting to get chubby already.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, you know how like sometimes their cheeks like start to get chubby and like impedes their vision?
Oh, yeah.
I caught a glance of him today, and I was like, it looks like your cheeks are starting to get in the way of your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
They're cute.
Because I like a fat baby.
Mm-hmm.
Like a meaty,
chubby baby.
Like our last daughter, Bernadette, she was like a scarecrow baby the whole time. She's always just super skinny.
Mm-hmm.
But I like a meaty baby you can
cuddle.
Just really like
hug and
yeah.
Mm-hmm. I do too.
It's like you squeeze him. And it's like, that's so much baby. You know what I'm saying?
You're in a weird mood tonight. That's what I'm saying.
Well, that's the truth. I've always felt that way about babies.
Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad.
Yeah. But also, last episode, we were talking about, I want to make a correction.
Ooh, okay. Is it something I said or you said?
No. Yes. We were talking about the price of how much it costs to have a will done.
Oh, yes.
And I said it was like a couple thousand. And I believe that I was getting that confused with a trust. A trust will typically cost several $1,000s, depending on how complicated it is and what kind of trust, because there are all kinds. A will is going to be like it's going to be under $1,000 almost assuredly like even as low as $200 or $300. So I just want to clear that up.
Yeah, because when you told me that, I was like, well, I'm not doing it.
But now you might.
But now I may.
You should.
Yeah.
You should do it.
Yeah. So that is a good clarification.
Yeah.
And we have our loyal listeners who always are eager to.
Yeah, and I
correct us.
always appreciate it that when someone messages me something like, "Hey, I just want to let you know once again, you don't know what you're talking about."
But I really appreciate
You're being
your
totally
show.
irresponsible. You have a show and people listen to you and they think you know what you're talking about and you don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I really appreciate your show.
Right. But keep it up.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any 4th of July traditions?
Fireworks.
That's a good one.
Usually bleeding.
Bleeding.
Yeah, that's a kind of a 4th of July tradition.
Like,
it used to be more.
what about like lentils and suitcases? Do you have that tradition?
I know a guy.
That's the New Year's though. That's not 4th of July.
That's true. Yeah, there are no Venezuelan 4th of July traditions.
You have handmade ice cream.
Oh yeah. We'll make. My mom has this antique ice cream maker, with a real crank.
Mm-hmm.
It's a white horse. It's like someone tried to buy it from her for like $300 one time because apparently it's like rare, and it's 8 quarts.
Oh wow!
It makes
nice.
2 gallons of ice cream.
Nice.
All at once, and so it's like it's at the very end. It takes a real man to keep turning that crank,
yeah.
right? So we'll usually make some ice cream. We used to do crazy things like shoot bottle rockets at each other, and
Glad you don't do that anymore.
we had all these PVC pipes that we would like stomp into the ground to plug up one end and then light a bottle rocket and drop it down the tube and then like hold it like a bazooka and shoot them at each other. Wow. That kind of stuff. It used to get real.
Dude, my dad makes a delicious homemade banana ice cream on 4th of July. The key is very ripe bananas.
No doubt.
Very ripe bananas will yield you very good banana ice cream.
Good to know.
So when we get back, we're going to jump into the man gear. We're on the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass.
Have we a man gear?
Mm-hmm.
What have we?
It's the thermometer, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The meter.
Yes. Meter mommer?
Meter plus.
This is a good whiskey.
Dude, it's excellent.
Yeah.
It's got a long finish too.
Yeah, it does have a long finish.
How much was that?
How much was it?
The problem when you buy
a bunch at once?
Yeah, it's hard to remember. I think that it was in the $80 range.
Because I like it better than La Santa.
Okay,
yeah,
Google.
but La Santa is like only
How much does
$43.
Glenfarclas cost?
Yeah.
It got it right. It knew what I said. That's awesome. It says $53.
Okay,
but,
so maybe,
but you never know. Like
I know. Like there's sometimes I'll look it up online and it's like it says $80 and I paid like $50.
Right, and then it's the other way around sometimes.
Yeah.
I'd totally buy this for $53.
Yeah, if that's what it was, maybe. I mean, I just don't remember. I bought this like a month ago.
I just really love that. I said Glenfarclas, and it.
Like, I'm glad you did. No one else is going to like that, but your wife. Your wife probably will.
She'd definitely like it.
It's weird.
All right. Let's remember we're still recording.
No. Oh yeah, we are.
Yeah, we are.
No, we're not. Oh yeah, we are.
We can say whatever we want.
Enough with the fart jokes.
All right.
I don't want to lose all the listeners.
I don't blame you, Juan. I agree with you.
Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. I'm David Niles, here with Adam Minahan, Juan Posada, and Jim Spencer, a.k.a. Jimbo Baggins, man in the door. We're drinking a little bit of Glenfarclas.
Mm-hmm.
You decide what you heard when I said that. You know what? You make up your own mind. It is really good, though.
Mm-hmm.
It has a nice long finish.
apparently it's about $50. I don't remember because I bought it like a month ago, and it was
who can remember things from that long ago?
Right.
I
Not
mean,
me.
What am I, Wikipedia?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. It's like ridiculous.
Give me a break.
Yeah.
Anyway, man gear.
Man gear today. So, 4th of July is this weekend. I thought it would be a good, a lot of times a tradition in the 4th of July is barbecue, grilling and
blowing stuff up,
obviously. Yeah. But with your family. And so, it's always fun to talk. Like, I always love talking about barbecue. It's smoking, briskets and pork and things like that. And so one of the main, and when you have everybody over, it's just so much fun and like exciting to like take on almost that burden of preparing all like the food.
Yeah.
And like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get, I can't think of very many things that I like get almost excited about still waking up at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
To put meat on the grill.
Yeah.
Like I don't enjoy getting up that early, but I get up and I'm like, okay, yes, I'm going to do this. I have this mission to take care, and
it's going to be awesome.
It's going to be so good. The reward is going to be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that is always needed whenever you're smoking meat or you're, even just grilling in general, especially like thicker pieces of meat, burgers, you don't need
grilling, you probably don't.
It's nice to have.
But if you're smoking, for sure.
Right. It's still nice to have with grilling, like especially if you're like just grilling like a big, loin or something like that. It's still good to know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was thinking like
not burgers,
like
or
a steak.
Oh,
or a big pork chop or something.
It's easy to kind of dictate with steaks.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I was thinking. Like, no, I don't think you should be using it's a meat thermometer.
Right. I'm sorry.
That's what we're talking about.
Right.
And I was going to say, I don't think you should be using a meat thermometer if you're grilling a steak of some kind, whether it's pork, beef, whatever, because you just need to hone and refine the craft of knowing.
Grilling a steak.
You can kind of just give it a feel.
So if you put your thumb over your index finger and you push right in that meaty part of your hand, that's what like medium feels like. And so that's what your steak should feel like. Medium.
Yeah, okay, I don't do it that way. I do like if you just touch this finger,
well, people don't.
Your ring finger, don't squeeze, just touch. That's kind of like medium well. The touch the
tendon part or the muscle
middle
part.
Finger, right? Still touching in that muscly part. That's medium. Touch your index finger, and that's medium rare.
Oh, that's a good way to do it. I like that way. So anyway,
I just look at it and I know.
Yeah, Juan knows, but
Juan will just smell it.
Yeah.
No, it's
so
perfect.
My dad got this awesome meat thermometer. It's called Meter, MEATER.
Yeah.
And it's a wireless Bluetooth smart meat thermometer. And what's really cool about it is it's just one thermometer. You put it in, and it has two sensors on it.
Like, you want both. You really do want both.
You really do want both. Yeah. So it has two sensors on it, right? It has one that goes that's for inside the meat, and then it has on the outside what the outside temperature of the grill is.
Right.
And so what you do
because you just cannot trust. I know it's like your
dial on the top.
Yeah, the dial on your grill. It doesn't matter how new your grill is or how nice the dial is. That dial is always wrong. As much as like 50 degrees. Just because it's so much lower, it's so much higher above the grilling surface. Because when you're grilling, you don't want to know temperature. What's the temperature 12 inches above the grilling surface? Because just open the lid, put your hand 12 inches higher, and then put your hand right at the grilling surface. It's a drastically different temperature, right?
Sure.
So yeah, you need a thermometer that's really at the level of the food that you're cooking.
And so what's really cool about this one is that you download the app, and it has these algorithms in there where you pick which type of meat you're smoking, and you set, it'll tell you, here's what the meat is currently, then you set, like, here's your target temperature, and then it gives you the outside temperature, and it dictates to you, basically, here's how long it's going to take, based on the information that we have, how long it's going to take to get to your target temperature, which is always the key, right? Because the frustrating thing about smoking meat, like a brisket or a pork shoulder, is that it says, okay, typically 60 to 90 minutes per pound. That's typically how long you smoke.
Right.
Whatever the poundage is, it's 60 to 90 minutes,
depending on the meat. Right.
Right. And so you add it. You do the math, and you're like, okay, I need to be up for 12 hours, and like you get there at 12 hours, and then it has to have an hour of rest afterwards. So you do all the math, you line it up, you let it rest, you open it up, and it's like, no, it's not done yet.
Yeah.
I followed the rules, and it's still not done.
Yep.
The thermometer really helps.
Or what happens to me, because for me, I always go on not how long has it been on the grill, but what is the internal temperature, because that will really tell you. It doesn't actually matter how long it's been on the grill. And so what happens to me is like, okay, it should be done in 12 hours in your scenario.
Right.
12 hours come, and it's not done.
Right.
And like, I can't tell you how many times I've been smoking something, and it's, like 7:30. I was planning on this thing being done at 5, and it's 7:30.
And it's still not done.
Still is not done. And I'm having to like crank up the heat a lot, and or maybe put it in the oven,
Or you don't like give it a chance to rest, which is
a
big
you just can't, because like the natives are restless.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And
yeah, you have a bunch
it's
of
like we got to eat.
Yeah, you have people over. Everybody's like,
I'm
waiting.
getting restless.
Yeah, I'm very hungry.
Right.
Yeah, and so that's a frustrating part, right? Is whenever you put all this time and effort into it, and you want it to yield a delicious meal that you get to share with all your family and friends, but you
so
don't
does
have
it
the
give you
time.
like live updates on your ETA?
Yes, it as it goes, like let's say the internal temperature of your grill goes down, it then reallocate like over a period of time. Like
Right.
I don't know what the time frame is, but let's say the grill temperature goes down, it will recalculate based on that.
So like Google Maps, when you're driving somewhere, it'll tell you like
similar
what time you're gonna get there.
So I don't know if I've told you this on the show or not, but it's worth retelling anyway.
Okay.
Here's a delicious recipe of smoking pork loins for the 4th of July.
Tell me.
So you take a block of cream cheese, dice up a bunch of jalapenos, put in cheddar cheese, and you can put in different kinds of spices or whatever tickles your fancy in that aspect.
Okay.
Mix it all up. You take the pork, you take the tenderloin, you cut it straight down the middle, you fillet it, and then you put all those all the cream cheese stuffing inside.
Yeah.
Wrap it back up, put toothpicks through it, set it on the grill. Now, if you want to up your game, you can do the bacon wrapped on top of that. But here's what I don't like about the bacon wrapped. Now, this is almost heretical for me because I'm a bacon guy, right?
I know.
But I've played this game both ways, and I like the tenderloins without the bacon wrapped. Here's why. What happens is whenever you smoke a tenderloin, most of the time the bacon on the outside gets nice, crispy, cooked, but on the inside of the tenderloin, it's not cooked. It's raw. And so it doesn't taste like it.
Well, it's not going to be raw, but it's not going to be crispy.
It's not cooked. It's not cooked. On the inside, it's not cooked.
Well, if the inside of the pork tenderloin itself is cooked, then the inside of that inner side of the bacon is going to be cooked, but it's not going to have that crisp.
It just
sensation.
It just doesn't taste as well. Oh, I forgot to mention also what I do is I take on the outside of the tenderloin, I take sriracha sauce and brown sugar and mix that up, and then cover the outside with the sriracha brown sugar. So it gives it a little bit of spice, a little bit of sweetness.
I like sriracha.
And it's a nice glaze that that goes on the top of it. So if you're looking for something cool, and it's actually very hard to mess up, because pork tenderloins you can probably, with the cream cheese in the middle, it doesn't really dry out.
Yeah, it's not gonna.
So you can like put that on there and leave it on for quite a while. You're not gonna dry it out even longer than what it says. The math says. You'll be just fine. But
they don't take that long anyway.
No, they're only like about 4 hours.
Yeah.
And that's a big difference than like a brisket or something like that. That's 13, 16 hours that you have to smoke. So if you're looking for something cool to do for the 4th of July, you're having people over, your family over, whatever, I highly recommend it. It's easy to do. It's cool because most people haven't tried it before. A lot of people haven't tasted. It's kind of new, fun, cool. That's what I like to do. Also, is like have something unique that a lot of people haven't tried before.
Yeah,
it's just cool about it. It just adds to the hospitality of like having people over. And just like
totally. You can give them something like
to talk about.
Unique. You can't get this other place. It's like good.
Right. I mean,
good hospitality.
The analogy of like we enjoy a scotch for taking the time, the labor that's involved, to make this scotch. You sip it, you take it, a little bit at a time. You enjoy it. It's kind of similar way. It's the labor of love. you sit down and enjoy it with family and friends.
So I thought of a 4th of July tradition that we do.
Okay.
So, we'll do the fireworks just at my parents' house. They're outside city limits. And so, we'll usually get people over, shoot off fireworks. After the fireworks, all the men stand up and sing God Bless America to the women, for the women. And that's a good tradition.
That is a good tradition. I forgot. Sometimes we've gone over to your house for the 4th of July.
Yeah.
And I forgot.
And all the men, we're all out there in the yard. And the men stand up, turn around, and sing for the ladies.
Yeah, I like that. Also, if you're shooting
we need to incorporate more song into our just gatherings, into like our when we get together.
Remember when in Christmas time, like we used to go and
caroling?
Caroling?
I've thought about that this last year.
And it was like, as kids, like we went on our small faith groups. We would
go to each other's houses and stuff.
Yeah. It's like, we don't do that anymore.
Nobody does that anymore.
No one does that anymore. It's in fact, like I think it'd be weird for some people.
Yeah. Like,
you know what? Embrace the weirdness.
People would come outside with a shotgun. What are you doing? Yeah. I don't want to buy any.
Yeah.
It's a no soliciting neighborhood.
Yeah. When we get back, we're going to talk about friendliness, flattery, and fatherhood. We'll be right back.
Hey, you forgot to say something important about the cooking the meat. Is that when it's resting, the meat is going to raise about 5 degrees. So you want to pull it before it gets to the target temperature.
Really?
I didn't know that.
Even if you're doing pulled pork, do you do pulled pork very often? Because for me, like when I do pulled pork, I'll get it to the right temperature, and rarely does it pull very well. I always have trouble with the pulled pork being actually done enough to pull. I end up with kind of like real tender chopped pork.
Mm-hmm.
Does that happen? Do you have that problem?
Yeah.
I think everybody does.
I didn't know that one. There's a lot of guys who, the barbecue websites that I've said or I've read says to go to the exact temperature and then pull off and then let it rest. But you're a better cook than I am, so I
we cooked last night. I stopped at 155 and it went up to 165.
Mm-hmm. After it was resting. Sure.
Had foil over it. Yeah. But then in about 10 minutes it was back down to like 150. So it does go up.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good clarification one.
That meter your dad has?
Yeah.
There's no wires on it.
No, there's no wires.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's wireless.
What I'm using is
it's just like it's just a metal stainless steel probe. You just stick it in and
it's high heat too. It's like 500.
Yeah.
What would worry me about that is like you're putting batteries inside the grill.
It says 500 degrees.
I know, and I'm sure it works. That just worries me because a AA battery is going to blow up at 500 degrees.
Yeah.
And it's an acid bath. It's nice.
Well,
it's exfoliating.
Let me tell you, if you were smoking a meat at 500 degrees, you've already messed up.
Yeah. So many mistakes have already been made at this point.
It doesn't really matter if it blows up or not.
You deserve to lose your thermometer.
In fact, it's probably a good thing that it blows up because that way you don't eat it.
Yeah.
Because if it's at 500 degrees that you're smoking...
You might. I mean, if you've made that many mistakes, you might not know not to eat it.
Yeah, exactly.
They might have the battery in the probe side, so that's only going to be 200 highest.
Maybe.
The charge side is the high heat 500
Maybe.
side. It's a charging device.
Mm-hmm. It just makes me nervous.
Yeah.
Is it AA batteries? Do you know?
I think it's triple. I think it's one AAA.
Okay.
But it charges all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
in the base part.
It's all about the base, actually.
That is what they say.
Yeah. Okay.
Chilling here.
Listos.
Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. Sipping on a little bit of Glenfarclas 12-year single malt Scotch whiskey. Just got done talking about the meter plus. There's a meter and a meter plus. The plus has some advantages. I can't remember exactly what it is, but I read the differences a week ago, yesterday, not a week ago, yesterday, because this is what we were going to talk about.
But who can remember that far back?
That far back, it's ridiculous.
What am I, Wikipedia?
Yeah, I mean, come on.
That's a good joke that I've never made before.
So anyway, it's $100, but it's well worth it. Stainless steel. Go check one out. We're not sponsored by them at all.
It's $100?
Yep.
That is a lot of money for a meat thermometer. I got mine off Amazon. It was like the Amazon brand or something for $15. Dual probe.
Nice.
Wireless.
Nice.
It's tough to
beat that.
Tough to pay $100 for a nice one.
Yeah.
When you can get and it's lasted me. In fact, it just broke. I had it for like 2 or 3 years.
Nice.
If I could get it again, I would. I'm going to see if I can.
Yeah. Nice.
Because I'm not wealthy, okay? Yet.
So today we're going to talk a little bit about friendliness and flattery.
You know, it would be really friendly if you gave me $100 right now.
I'm not going to. And then hopefully we're going to talk about like what St. Thomas Aquinas says about these, and then hopefully we apply it to fatherhood. So it's interesting that friendliness, St. Thomas says, is a sub-virtue of justice.
That is interesting.
And, I'm
not sure like what I would have thought friendliness would be a sub-virtue of. First of all, I'm not sure I would have thought friendliness, that must be a virtue.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess it is, because it's a action you could be in the habit of doing. You know, that's a good habit. Being cheerful with people, you know?
But St. Thomas makes this...
What would you have thought it would be? Charity, but you can't say charity. That's cheating.
Yeah.
Everything's virtue.
Jesus.
Yeah.
The answer is Jesus.
Cheez-Its?
No, Jesus.
Jesus.
Yeah. But it's interesting because he makes this, when he's talking about this friendliness being a sub-virtue of justice, he says it is, but it's not a full sub-virtue of justice, because he says justice, is rendering what's due to another person.
Okay.
And friendliness in and of itself is a form of being like rendering to do so. Like an example would be if I said, please pass me the salt. Okay, you pass me the salt and I say thank you.
And I would say it is right and just.
Now, do I really do I owe you the justice of saying thank you?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you is, you pass a stranger, are they owed friendliness?
Right. So
does he say, does he make comments on that, like explaining that is yes, I could just pass by and say nothing to you.
Sure, but
and that's not being friendly. It's not necessarily being rude. It depends on the circumstance, but like if I pass by and say nothing, have I is this a violation of justice because I wasn't friendly?
Well, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
But basically,
don't say anything because we've had to make too many corrections lately.
Recently. Yeah. So I don't want to misspeak, but basically what he said, like, do you have the example of like, do you have like injustice have to say thank you whenever they pass you the salt? I mean, it could be for manners.
Well, so that I would say I can see that they passed you the salt. Mm-hmm. You should say thank you because they did something and they are like owed.
Right. So this is what St. Thomas says is like it's not necessarily like an ode of complete like rendering what's due to them. But he does say friendliness. Basically, he doesn't say this, but basically what he's saying is that friendliness helps grow society. Right. It behooves man to be friendly to another person, to the other man, to help grow society. Right.
Okay.
Now, obviously, when you are doing this, like you're going to have different levels of friendliness with different people. If you have an authentic friend, that is a different level of friendliness than, let's say, just a person that you're passing by the street.
Right. If one of your friends is just like better looking than your other friends, maybe you'll be nicer to them.
Okay. Yeah. But what he does, but what's interesting about friendliness.
That's why everyone's so nice to Juan.
That's why everybody's super nice to Juan.
And Jim.
But what he does say, I think it's interesting about friendliness, is he says there's a positive and almost a negative to it. So like the positive, like we talk about, like smiling at somebody, being friendly to somebody, being approachable, being, having a joy about you as a Christian. You have a joy about you.
Yep.
But there's also being friendliness of, he says, bringing sorrow to somebody for the sake of the good, which is very interesting, right? So like, like if you are doing something wrong, I call you out. In a prudent, appropriate manner,
in front of a whole lot of people,
right? Yeah, but
including their mom.
But in order to have, for the sake of the good.
Okay.
So he says if you don't do it, then you are violating friendship, or friendliness. So if you don't take the time to do that,
right,
you're violating friendliness, which is very interesting.
People, we definitely in our culture today, it seems like
they're
the
very
friendly.
Walking
don't be
eggshells.
confrontational. That's not being friendly. The friendly thing is just don't say anything. Just let them be who they are, and
So let me I'll quote him right here on this. He says, "The virtuous man will sometimes not shrink from bringing sorrow to those among whom he lives. For this reason, he should not show a cheerful face to those who are given to sin, in order that they may please them, lest we seem to consent to their sin, and in a way encourage them to sin further." So it's, you're your brother's keeper, right? So you can't allow them to continue sinning if you truly love them. This is the charity.
That is so hard to do. I mean,
it definitely is.
That is, I think, one of the hardest for me anyway.
But I think that is shows
so hard to do.
I think that shows whenever you can get to the authentic. There's the 3 levels of friendship that Aristotle talks about. When you get to the authentic level of friendship, and you are, even if you don't necessarily call them out in the right way, in the proper way, like maybe you're a little too aggressive, maybe you're a little too angry, or maybe you're too emotional, or you're too eager to call them out, but because the person who's being called out knows, like, no, this guy cares about me, he loves me for my good, I'm going to take this, even though he may not be doing it right, and I should take it with open-heartedly, and know that he's calling me out because he cares about me. And when you can do that with another friend, I think that really shows the level of authentic friendship, where it's not getting necessarily offended. Pride hopefully doesn't get in the way too much. To a point.
And like you reach that level where you think, I'm going to tell you this, even if it means you don't like me anymore. Because,
but it's because I care about you.
Because an authentic friendship is one where you love the other for their sake. Right. You don't love them for a benefit that you get from it. Even though you might get benefits, you most certainly do get benefits from that kind of friendship. But those don't matter to you. You just love them for them.
Right.
And so whether you hate me now, that's okay. I still want to be a good friend, and I'm going to tell you this.
So if friendliness is maybe the virtue. It's in the middle. If you swing to one side of the extreme, it would be flattery. And flattery, is St. Thomas says, if a man were to wish always to speak pleasantly to others, he would exceed the mode of pleasing and would therefore sin by excess. If he does this with the mere intention of pleasing, as he said, to be complacent, according to the philosopher. So, like, he is saying basically, if you are flattering somebody to the point of just to flatter them, you are sinning in excess.
Let me ask you this. What if you're a single person trying to pursue a young lady?
Well, okay. So flattering, like to flatter somebody, like in this instant, like in this context, is distorting the truth.
Okay.
So you're telling, it's almost like the opposite of it's almost like a lie. There's like,
it is a lie.
There's a parallel to, it is a lie.
It is a lie.
Right. You're distorting the truth.
That's what a lie is. The truth is distorted, right?
Right. So you're building them up falsely.
Okay.
And so there's ways of being able to flatter somebody in a good, in telling the truth. But if you continue going on and on in excess, that's the sin that brings on a sin. And St. Thomas actually talks about there's whether or not it's a mortal sin or a venial sin, we don't really have time to go into that. We'll do that after the show. You can check it out on YouTube. We'll post it on YouTube. But he gives three ways of when it can be a mortal sin and one way when it can't. But it's really interesting because in the Inferno, Dante puts flatterers lower in the lower levels of hell than murderers.
Really?
Yes, he does, which is very interesting, I think, because it says this appears to be because flattery is a form of treachery. Okay, and so it's like Socrates.
Yeah, he did put traitors. Like
lower than murder. So it's
traitors were the lowest.
Right. So Socrates, the example of the cave. They're in the cave.
Yeah.
The wall. There's shadows. Guy goes out. He experiences reality. He comes back and tells him the truth. Like, guys, the reality is not on the cave wall. The shadows are not reality. Reality is out there. Well, what happens?
They don't believe him,
and they kill him.
Yeah.
So. It's this understanding, like it's the same way with Jesus, right? He tells he like comes and tells everybody, like, no, we're not living for this life. We're living for the next life. The kingdom is not of this world; it's of the next. And what do?
They killed him.
They killed him.
Yeah.
So it's this artificial reality that you're building up in flattery. That it's this, like, fake reality that happened.
And it also, I think, probably is so harmful because you are implanting the seed of pride in another person.
Absolutely. So when we get back on the other side of this break, we'll kind of take these principles and apply them to fatherhood. And then after the show, we'll talk a little bit more. I'd like to talk a little bit more about, get deeper into flattery and things like that. So we're on the Lord's
Sweet.
team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass.
You guys don't raise your glass.
I did.
Do your mouth.
No, I went like this.
Your fans are very disappointed this evening.
Well, I'm disappointed.
I'm really enjoying this.
Me too.
Yeah.
Like, this might be my favorite.
It's got like a spiciness that I don't associate. You're welcome, Kathy. That's a Kathy pour. First one's for Jim, second one's for Kathy.
Okay.
Kathy, clear your calendar.
She's not gonna like that. We need Jim here. Please don't blow this for us.
This maybe could ensure that he is.
Or it may.
I don't know. This kind of thing can really go either way.
Yeah. All right.
Depends on so many other factors
that we don't need to get into.
Right.
Thank you, Juan.
But might make a good show topic. Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. I'm David Niles, here with Adam Minahan, Juan Posada, and Jimbo Baggins. Adam, have I ever told you that you have the best hair of anybody I've ever known?
No.
Your hair is just gorgeous, and I just really have always admired it about you. And I also just really am impressed with so many of the things that you do other than just with your hair. And I really think that you're underrated as a person by the world.
Thank you for that flattery.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I was wondering where you were going with that at first.
I mean those things.
Yeah. Well, you get to go to confession.
Right. Well, you're a sinner.
Yeah. Okay, so we kind of laid the groundwork on this, and I wanted to take it. That's what Aquinas says about friendliness and flattery.
Okay, now let's bring it down.
But let's bring it down to fatherhood, and this can go for whether you're a priest, any type of father, your spiritual father, an actual biological father. I think you can take this for any of it. So I think that a lot of times we see dads nowadays build up their kids artificially, flatter their kids to the point of, like, listen, little Timmy is the best soccer player. He is the best of all, he's actually the best at soccer, and he's going to go into the Little League World Series. He's also going to be playing basketball and football. He's going to be doing debate, and he's on drumline. So
yep, and we've got him in a robotics class.
Yeah, I mean, and he's just And what happens when you do that as a dad is you instill in them a false identity of themselves, right? Because eventually what's going to happen, if your dad is sitting there telling you, like, you're the best at, you're the smartest kid in your class, and you think I'm the smartest kid in my class, and then you have a inevitable downfall. You no longer are the smartest kid in your class.
Right. You say something dumb in front of everybody and realize
and you fall, and you've built your whole identity on this idea that I am, and now you are not.
And you realize that you're not, and so you don't know who you are anymore.
Right. And so Father Mike Schmitz had a great homily this last week when he talked about loving Christ over everybody else, right? And eventually we're all going to lose everything. Right, we're gonna lose our looks. We're gonna lose eventually, our loved ones at some point in time.
Yeah,
we're gonna lose our house. When we die, you lose your money, you lose your house, you lose all these different your job. Like, you get fired. You lose all these things that if you build your identity in these things, you are nothing.
Right.
You lose it and you become nothing. But as Christians, we know that we build ourselves. We identify ourselves as sons and daughters of God. And so, which Christ is everything. And so if we make sure that we orient ourselves in our identity of building ourselves up in Christ, then regardless of what downfalls come in our lifetime, which we know are going to happen, this world is not perfect, obviously. There's going to be downfalls. So if you build yourself up in Christ, like Father Mike Schmitz was talking about, it's everything. And it doesn't matter what you lose all these other things, because they're nothing compared to Christ.
Right.
And so I think that it's really tough for us as dads, at least for me. This podcast is probably more about
this is about Adam
a self-reflection of me, making sure that I don't do this, because I get very caught up in wanting my sons to be the best at whatever it is.
Sure.
And I want
yeah, of course.
I want I think there's a healthy part of that.
We should all want that for our sons, for our daughters, for ourselves.
But you don't want to distort it into thinking that that's their identity, right?
Well, it's so hard with kids because, children are just potential. They're almost all 100% potential. All of the things that they...
Are you just trying to actualize the potential?
Yeah, well, exactly. As they grow, they will make choices that will eliminate some of their potential and bring other elements of that potential closer to reality. Okay, what summer camp do they go to? I mean, just there's all the little choices.
Who are their friends?
Right, exactly. How much time do they spend playing video games versus playing outside versus with friends? So it's so hard because on the one hand, you don't tell your kids you can be anything you want, because that's just not true. They can't be anything that they want. If every kid wants to be an astronaut, and almost none of them are.
Dude, you wanted to be a
trash man.
Trash man growing up,
and
you're not.
I'm not,
and so
I wasn't good enough.
Right,
but. So it's just so hard, and this is where virtue is important, because it's the middle road. Because another mistake a lot of people think, I think dads especially, is they do the opposite, where they put down. A lot of dads put down their kids, especially in the realm of sports. You should have done this. You didn't do this right. Kids, they hate the ride home from the soccer game,
right?
Because dad the whole way just rides them, saying you should have
done this.
Here's all the stuff. I took notes
right.
about all the mistakes you made, and meanwhile the kid's like, Dad, we won. Can't you just be happy we won? I scored the most points.
Right.
So you have to balance that, and it's so hard to do because it's how do you even know? This is one of those things where how do you even know if you're doing it? Because on the one hand, we want to be pushing our kids. We want to
push them for excellence.
Make sure that they know you need to always strive to be better. If you can do better, you should do better.
Right. And this is the when we were talking about friendliness, right? The aspect of you make sure you're uplifting, you're positive, you're joyful, you're cheerful, but you're also willing to call out, and do sorrowful, bring on sorrow to that person for the sake of the good.
Yeah.
Like, I have to sometimes, when I discipline my kids, I bring sorrow to them, but it's not because for the sorrow itself, it's for the greater good.
Right.
When we have, when priests are up giving a homily or something like that, they sometimes maybe call out the congregation, but they're doing it for the greater good, to sanctify their congregation.
Yeah.
And so it's important to remember that we have to go both sides. And I think that nowadays, I agree. There's a lot of guys who ride their kids, but I think there's more families who make their kids soft.
I think lately that has become more of a trend,
Right.
with the participation trophies.
The pendulum always
I know.
swings,
Yeah,
right?
it does. It goes back and
so
forth.
what happens whenever you do that is you create effeminate children.
Yeah.
You create soft children who never experience downfall, who never experience losing, who never experience like getting kicked.
Who never have to do any chores.
Right. And that's not real life.
Right.
And as a father, we protect, we provide, and we establish. That third tier is the established part, making sure that your kids know that, hey, you're going to fail.
Mm-hmm.
And
in fact, you only protect and provide so that you can establish.
Right.
Establishing is the end of the protecting and the providing. Yeah.
Right. And so, Jose Maria Escrivá says a saint is a sinner who keeps trying. And if we don't instill this, this trait of resilience, of getting back up again, then when they fall, they're gonna crumble.
So I think the trick is because this friendliness, part of it is building up. It's not just challenge. It's also, there has to be both the positive reinforcement. It's like, son, you did great. I was so proud of you today. So I think the important thing is to focus not on outcomes, but on inputs.
Okay.
It's more important that they gave it their all, that they strove for excellence in what they were doing, than did they win? Was it the desired outcome? Whatever, in whatever situation. So, because I think if they are doing that, if they're giving everything that they have to give, or giving an appropriate, whatever the situation calls for, then there has to be reinforcement in that, so that they know, yes, you won. This was it. You won today. Whether you won or lost the game, you won, like, yourself.
Well, and Dr. Guarini talks about how, like, you don't necessarily talk about the person, you talk about the actions. So when you're reinforcing the actions, because the person is good. It's made.
People are always good. There's no bad person on the planet.
Right. They're made in the image and likeness of God. And so you never talk about you're a bad person.
Right.
No, it's the action that you did was bad. And so
even liberals.
And so you make sure that you're focusing your children on, you're focusing when you're reinforcing or you're bringing sorrow, you're bringing it upon the action and not the child themselves, because they're intrinsically good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that the stuff they do is good.
Right. Good people do bad things.
Right.
And so you have to make sure to reinforce as a dad that you discipline your kids in the right way and encourage them in the right ways.
Yes. Yeah, and especially different children have different temperaments. I just know my oldest daughter, positive reinforcement works wonders on improving her behavior, whereas it doesn't have as much of an impact on my other daughters. My son is TBD, but that's just something you should know about your kids. How are they going to respond to certain things?
Yes,
you got to be in tune,
and you have to be on the same page with your wife.
Right.
And those are conversations that
in fact,
you have
she
to
probably
have.
knows already. You should just go ask her.
Right. And and then make sure you guys are on the same page, so that way whenever you do discipline, that there's no shocking things that happen, and that leads to bad things.
Yeah.
But
there are so many. I've heard this so many times. Adult men who said their dad never said congratulations, good job, I'm proud
I love you.
I'm proud of you, I love you. They never encouraged them their entire life.
Right.
Don't be that dad.
Don't be.
You're failing as a dad if that's who you are.
Yeah, because we're the earthly image of God, our Heavenly Father, and our Heavenly Father loves us unconditionally.
Right.
And so if you're not showing that, then how is he going to know the Father in heaven?
Yeah, exactly. That's a weakness on your part. Don't pass it on to your kids.
Right. So anyway, The second part, question 115, if you want to go check all that out on Flattery.
Secunda.
Yeah. We're on the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass.
Cheers to Jesus.
Hopefully it brought it down a little bit to like the practice. I like whenever we unpack things from like Aquinas or somebody and then like bring it down to practical, like how do we apply it?
Yeah. Let me tell you what Aquinas means.
What did you think, Juan?
I thought it was great.
El Juan.
It was good. Can you hear me? No. But
You're welcome, John.
remember when I did it with,
You're welcome, John.
when I did it with Kay? I gave her a glass of wine. That was like,
Yeah.
Holden.
Anyway.
See that glass of wine?
Hey, I was talking this weekend with Dr. Malosh, and he talks about Aristotle in the Nicomachean Ethics. You know, we talk about a virtue.
How do you say it?
Nicomachean Ethics.
That's how. Is that how it's supposed to be said?
That's how I say.
Okay, I say Nicomachean.
Nicomachean ethics is what I say.
Okay, but that's what I say. But I always, every time I say it, I wonder, am I saying that right?
Could
Anyway.
be wrong.
So we talk about virtue being like the middle.
The middle way.
Right.
But Aristotle actually says it's closer to one or the other in the Nicomachean Ethics. You know, it's like take courage. You're most likely to be courageous when you are closer to this side than to this one, and that he says that's it's not so much of a middle, but a tendency.
A perfect way.
A tendency without an extreme. So I don't know. I thought that was interesting.
That is interesting.
That is interesting.
I like that. A tendency without an extreme.
But when you go to the extreme, it is far away. It is the.
But the thing is, it's like, okay,
if you go from
for courage, you've got recklessness on one side, and you have cowardliness on one side. Okay. Is there an end? Like, can you say like, oh, you couldn't have been more coward? Like there's always something more cowardly that could have been done. You know, maybe in a different situation. You know, so it's like
with recklessness.
And the same with recklessness, right? And so it's like, courage is right here. Well, to say that it's closer to one side than the other means that like, oh, this is the rail. Like, you can't get more reckless. This is maximum recklessness. You know, you see, otherwise, because if it's just infinite in both directions, there's no middle. It's just on a point, on a.
I like that. If there's infinity to both sides, how do you pick a middle?
Right, you can't. Every spot is the middle.
Right, because
it's infinity on both sides.
Yeah.
It's balanced at any point.
Your cousin Ben, we need him.
No, I'm here.
Okay, so I do want to talk just. Oh, man, there's paper towels right there.
It wasn't that bad. It was pretty low already.
That is unfortunate.
It is unfortunate.
Okay, so one of the questions that Aquinas asks is whether flattery is a mortal sin. What do you think? Do you think flattery is a mortal sin?
As I sit here and think about it, I think that there are 3 ways in which it could be a mortal sin.
Because I said that already.
It's also on the notes you gave me.
Yeah. Yeah. So, unfortunately,
let me tell you what they are.
Unfortunately, there's 3 ways that it can be, and only 1 way that it can't be. So you have more shots of being mortal.
When a man praises another's sin.
Yes. When a man praises another sin, like what in Isaiah it says, "Woe to you to call evil good."
Yeah. Woe to that guy.
Yeah. So.
Woe, man.
So that's one way. Another way is when deceiving could cause injury to body or soul. In Proverbs it says, "Better are the wounds of a friend than a deceitful kiss of an enemy." And the third.
I don't like it when enemies kiss me.
And so the third one is when the praise of the flatterer, even without his intending, becomes to another an occasion of sin. It has to be a grievous sin. So even let's say you like let's say there's some evil that's happening in your office. There's something that's bad that's happening, and you praise it, but you're not intending for him to continue doing it. It's just like, oh yeah, Bob did a great job there, and it's like, no, Bob didn't do a great job there. He cheated on the numbers for the company.
See, that would be the first way. He's praising another man's sin.
Mm-hmm.
If he cheated, this third way, I think, is like you're just maybe saying something true, like, oh wow, your wife looks gorgeous tonight, or like, and you maybe are pointing something out that causes another person to like now become like.
I actually think it's more of an extension of one.
Really?
Because it's more like it's saying causing another occasion. So you're even if you're not meaning to, but you're praising the sin, but you're doing it in such a manner that it's caught like.
Because it doesn't say, it just says praise of the flatterer.
Well, I shorthanded this, so it's not exactly what.
Oh, that's not what he says.
It's not exactly what Aquinas says.
Okay, I did not know that.
Yeah, so I shorthanded this.
I was really putting a lot of emphasis on the words that were on the paper.
Right. And then the way that it's not, the way that it's a venial sin.
Okay.
Is if a man flatters another for the mere craving to please others.
But what if he's doing it for the mere craving to please others and unintentionally becomes an occasion of sin for another? See, I don't like this, the third one, because it says, even without his intending, you cannot commit a mortal sin without intending to commit a mortal sin.
Okay, let me pull it.
I mean, that's like one of the things, the definition of a sin, mortal sin.
Let me pull it up, and we can go directly to the source.
Yes, I like that.
Okay.
Yeah, because
thirdly, so you can read that right there, starting right there. Thirdly,
by way of occasion, as when the praise of a flatterer, even without his intending it, becomes to another an occasion of sin. In this case, it is necessary to consider whether the occasion were given or taken, and how grievous the consequent downfall, as may be understood from what has been said above concerning scandal. So, I don't know, I just have according to the plain reading of that short text, that seems to me to be wrong. Just because you cannot commit a mortal sin without intending to commit a mortal sin. Now, I think what he's saying is not that, oh, you didn't intend to flatter someone. Obviously, you knew that you were indulging in an excess, of flattery. I think the unintention, you don't intend to cause an occasion of sin. But it seems like the fact that, it was, this almost like a scandal, he uses that example, the fact that you did tempt another person, that's actually the bad part, is that you were tempting another person, but you didn't mean to tempt anybody, all the time. That could happen with many, many different things. You might say something that, like, somebody else misinterprets and like sets him off, triggers him to go home, and like people who are addicted to pornography might have all kinds of things that might remind them of their addiction. You could say something totally normal, and that might become an occasion of sin, a near occasion of sin for that person. But it doesn't mean you're not responsible for that. You know what I mean? So I don't understand how.
Well, we're already talking about flattery, though. So
right. You are flattering somebody, but at the same time, I don't see how you can be held accountable for becoming a near occasion of sin when you did not intend to become a near occasion of sin. Now, you shouldn't be flattering people. So obviously, you're going to be culpable for the flattery itself. But if you're not intending to tempt somebody.
I know the answer to that question.
Juan says he knows the answer to the question.
I'll go over there.
Okay.
So,
when you talk about like invisible.
Well, if you're gonna talk, you need to talk into the mic.
When you talk about,
I'm gonna come over here and not talk into the mic.
when you talk about invincible ignorance, so that you don't know you're making that sin. When you commit one sin, you lose the benefit of invincible ignorance to any other sins you are committing. Just because the nature of sin itself takes away that privilege of the doubt, because you are already sinning, even though it's not the sin that you're committing, you are already losing that battle. That's what we learned. So
okay, so like this. Let me use this example. There are thousands, millions of Catholics today who do not know that it is sinful to eat meat on Friday.
Well, or
without making
giving,
some other
making
some other sacrifice in its place. The church is still the church law. The church is still asking us to not eat meat on Friday. Mm-hmm. However, it says you may eat meat on Friday if you choose to do some other sacrifice. People don't know that.
No. But in your case, you're
already
committing the sin of flattery.
Hang on. So, just because you commit one sin doesn't mean you're culpable for another sin you're committing at the same time. So let's say I'm eating meat on Friday and I tell a lie. Just conversation. I mean, that doesn't mean that because I do it while I'm eating meat. Because those two sins occur. No, they're not connected. And how is, in this case, tempting somebody, like tempting another person to sin is a much different thing from, I was too excessive in my praise of you.
But your flattery is the one that caused that temptation.
But you don't know that. I mean, that's the thing is like, this is such a general, that's so broad. That could be anything. Like,
I'm going off of that Aquinas is right.
I agree. I mean,
that we're not diving deep enough into the text.
I'm very willing for that to be the.
If you hadn't sinned, that sin wouldn't have happened.
Maybe, but you're still not aware of it. You weren't intending it.
That's where you lose. That's where you lose the invincible ignorance that protects you from committing mortal sin.
It just doesn't seem. Yeah, no, I mean, I would love for someone who actually knows to, because I mean, it sounds like you've got some good. You made an interesting point. It just doesn't seem to jive with the normal rules of sin. You know what I mean?
I'm going with Aquinas.
Yeah. You're just gonna take the cowardly way out.
There's nothing cowardly about that. But yeah, I mean, so anyway, my goal.
I mean, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Because it doesn't make it. I am willing to also say that Aquinas is correct, but it doesn't make sense to me.
I understand. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I agree, because I mean, when we're talking about mortal sin, it has, like, you have to know that it's a grave sin. Like,
right?
You have to know.
We're not talking about like, oh, was it sinful? We're talking about you go to hell. You're going to go to hell for this sin if you don't repent.
Right.
And the other thing is, how am I supposed to repent for tempting somebody if I don't even know I did it?
Well, you when you go to confession, you get forgiveness. If you haven't.
Yeah, I know, but it's like sins on your soul, they're like secret even to you. You know, like, you can't commit a sin if you don't know you're committing a sin. That's just the way, I mean, it just doesn't, like I said, it doesn't make sense to me.
There's people out there right now that are like, we're approaching this the wrong way. You guys aren't even
yeah, Dave, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
And you know what? I might be committing a sin right now. Oh Lord, I hope I am not.
Yeah. Anyway,
preserve me.
That the goal was to in an attempt to transfer over friendliness and flattery into the role of a father.
Yeah.
Do you touch about when it's not mortal?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, when it's not mortal, it's just like when a man flatters another from the mere craving of wanting to please another.
Which to me, that's like weird, because why else would you flatter somebody?
Well, in this context, with flattering, you're distorting the truth. It's not necessarily like, oh, it's true that, it's true, my wife is beautiful.
No. I understand that. It's a distortion of the truth.
Right.
But what is another reason? I just don't understand why you would be committing this sin of flattery if it wasn't to please other people anyway.
Well, there could be
I guess you could be
the ulterior motives would be like, I'm doing it because I want to get a raise. I'm doing it because I want to get a promotion.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm doing it because I want to do.
Yeah.
I want other
that's
things.
A good example.
So it's not necessarily like I'm just doing it to make you feel good. But the problem is whenever you when you become a yes man, when you become this guy who never really calls out the truth, who's just always goes with the flow, whatever the office is doing or whatever society is doing, I'm just gonna try to go with the flow. I'm just gonna be a salmon down the stream. I'm not gonna be a salmon down the stream because they go against the current, right? I'm just gonna flow with the current. What happens is that you get so used to distorting the truth, right? It becomes a lie because
it's a vice.
You become you build this pseudo reality, this fake reality.
Well, you don't have the muscles to go against the stream. You don't have the muscles to those.
But you don't even realize that this is that what you're doing is distorting reality.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
You don't even realize that this is what's happening. And there's guys you can think of, or at least I can think of, that I've either worked with in the past or that I've been friends with at the time. It's like he would never go against what you say.
Yeah.
He's the Andy in The Office.
Mm-hmm.
Always going oh, what's your top 10 favorite movies? That's the exact top 10 of mine.
Those are my top 10 favorite.
And it's so you're distorting your reality, but your reality, what happens is if you distort it so much, the distortion actually becomes your reality, and you're not grounded.
Or you just lose touch with reality.
You're not grounded in reality, and so you lose touch with it.
Mm-hmm.
And you become, you just become a liar.
Mm-hmm. See, I thought when he was going to say the one way it's not a mortal sin is under duress or something. If there's a guy that who's just a bully, who just he's just abusive, verbally abusive. Oh yeah, you might flatter that guy just so he'll leave you alone. To me, that's not a mortal sin. Because you have, maybe you lack the virtue of courage, of fortitude, to stand up to the guy, but you're doing it because out of fear, you don't have all of your faculty. You know what I mean? You can't, you're not fully culpable for, in a situation like that. I was just kind of surprised that was what he said, to please others.
The second part of the second part, if you're going to start reading St. Thomas Aquinas, in my opinion, and I'm no Thomistic philosopher, but I love the second part of the Summa.
Well, it seems like every time I hear someone quote the Summa, it's always from the second part of the second part.
Well, because it's talking all about virtues and vices.
Mm-hmm.
So it's talking about the way, to live. The first part is all about, God, the existence of God, angels, right. All the metaphysical aspects of reality, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But the second part is all about how to live this Christian life. And so to me, I get the most out of that on a practical level.
It is ooh, yeah.
Yeah, it's ooh, I didn't know about magnanimity. That is an awesome one. It's an awesome word.
Yeah.
But two,
I need to practice my virtue of vengeance.
Yeah, exactly.
I need to be better at that.
Yeah. So anyway, that's all I got.
Sweet. Cheers to Jesus.
Yeah.